It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and Paso Robles, California. Well, actually, it's 9 a.m. there. Um, and this is news that you can use for, well, Monday, January 1st, 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. Your hosts today are, well, the normal, me, Ray, and the hairy guy, Zach, who's a bit chilled in Central California at the moment.
I am, Dad. It is chilly here, but it's not as ice cold as it is in a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealership. That's where we're going to kick things off, Dad. 2024 New Year, same story. I posted this just yesterday over on X, formerly known as Twitter. Did you see this, Dad?
I did, yeah, and yeah. Now that I'm assuming that includes factory incentives as well in their $38,000 discount.
For those of you that listen to the podcast, let's break this down. So we found just yesterday, and this is actually at a dealership that we work with, Island Auto Group up in Staten Island, New York. If you're interested in a $38,641 savings on a Jeep Grand Wagoneer at 2022, we can help you out with that. But Dad, this is
Yeah,
the reality that's being faced at Jeep dealerships nationwide. We'll do some examples in just a moment. $640,000 MSRP on a brand new
yes,
2022 Jeep Grand Wagoneer Series 3 all-wheel drive. This dealer, Dad, has had this vehicle for well over a year, coming up on 2 years. Island Auto Group, again, they've now discounted it $38,641. Have you ever seen anything like this, Dad? A $38,000 discount on an advertisement price. I mean, that is just, I've never seen it. I didn't even know this was possible, man.
well, anything's possible. It all depends how big of a loss you want to take. And the sad reality is well, I can honestly say on $110,000 car, I don't ever recall seeing a $38,000 discount. That's what, about 35%. But the sad reality is that they should have done this 2 years ago. Okay, it shouldn't have taken them 2 years to realize this thing ain't going to sell at anywhere near $110,000. What can we get for it? I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what they have spent in floor plan costs on this vehicle over almost nearly 2 years. But yeah, I mean, every time we've looked at the Grand Wagoneer, we've said, man, that is the perfect vehicle for Derek Jeter, nobody else. And dealers have been sitting with them. So, and I saw you had a comment from somebody that said, sign me up. And when you said, well, if you're serious, let me know. And she said, no, I'm an Escalade kind of gal. And you'd really be hard pressed to get me out of an Escalade to get into one of those. That just shows the tough road to hoe when it comes to selling those vehicles.
Look at this, Ted. There are 240 2022 Jeep Grand Wagoneers still for sale nationwide, new. 240 of them, Pops. Let's just click on this one here. Again, I'm in Central California, so let's do a quick, poke here. So I'm going to go down, scroll down. Let's go to this dealer's website. Bear with me for 1 second, folks. They're only offering a $15,650 discount. Dad, to your point about floor plan costs, let's think about that for a second. Jeep dealers nationwide are experiencing what consumers are experiencing, which is the price of their vehicles have gone up 50% over the past 5 years.
Yes.
And they've stopped selling. People aren't buying them. These Grand Wagoneers, these 2022 Grand Wagoneers are the pinnacle example of this, the highest prices, the most floor plan costs. But still, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that $15,650 is not a competitive discount on that vehicle.
Yeah, it's nowhere near what it's going to take to get rid of it. And it's not that they stopped selling. Okay. The Grand Wagoneers never sold. Okay. The Grand Wagoneer was basically the answer to the question that nobody ever asked. Gee, what would it be like if in the Jeep side of things, we put out something that would compete with an Escalade? Let's find out. Now, the sad reality is, well, let's find out was really a big waste of time and money. They probably knew the answer before they decided to let's find out. But they've got a conclusive answer. It is a beautiful vehicle. We sat in the one in Long Island. It is gorgeous. But nobody wants them. It is difficult to convince people to spend that type of money for a Jeep. Okay. They're used to it when it comes to an Escalade. Okay. It that's what the price has been. Even a Denali or a big ass Suburban. People are kind of used to that.
What trim level is that, Dad, on the
The
Suburban?
big ass Suburban. Oh
The
my God.
big
Yeah.
ass
No,
trim. Got it. Yeah,
that
noted.
yeah, no, the marketing department has gotten involved. That's why they came up with the big ass Suburban. But my point is that oftentimes, let me rephrase it. Occasionally, manufacturers will decide to build things that nobody ever asked for. Perfect example is this Jeep Grand Cherokee, whatever the hell, Grand
Grand
Wagoneer.
Wagoneer.
Yeah,
Grand
Grand
Wagoneer.
Wagoneer, for $110,000. When I was with Acura, it was the ZDX. It wasn't like the automotive public was clamoring for that type of vehicle. And so Acura built it and proved conclusively that, well, the automotive public wasn't clamoring for it. Jeep has built the Grand Wagoneer, proved conclusively that the American public wasn't asking for this. So we see these type of things occasionally. Hell, Ford did it with a whole brand called Edsel. So
Yeah.
it's not uncommon, but it is unnecessary in the sense that these manufacturers get so full of themselves that they think, well, whatever they build, the public will buy. And well, as it turns out, that's not the case. And to take one that's $110,000 and to have to mark it down to $72,000, and if you were to run that same vehicle, $110,000 Grand Wagoneer Series 3, and you were to run it through Black Book or run it through our Sell Widget, with very limited miles, my guess is you wouldn't get a bid anywhere near $70,000 for it. And you're trying to get somebody to spend $72,000 for a 2-year-old vehicle with 0 miles on it, and as the dealer, you got to feel good about what you're offering, and as the customer, you got to be thinking twice about spending it. Even at $72,000, it's a 2-year-old vehicle that doesn't seem like a particularly good bargain.
Let's do it, man. You know me. I love doing these experiments live on the show. So let me pull this up on the dealer website, and then let's go back over to CarEdge.com and let's see what the price would be if we sold it. If we sold it back to Carvana or CarMax or something like that. So I'm here on the dealer website. Here is the listing. The VIN is right here. Now, Dad, this vehicle has about 1,000 miles on it. They put it into service loaner fleet. So what I'm going to do is I'll jump back over to CarEdge.com. Let me come back over to the VDP where we're looking at. Let's go to sell. Let me start over. Then, boom. Let's say I think it had about 900 miles on it. And we're in New York. So that would be like 1001, something like that.
I don't know.
NYC. Bear with me, folks. I should know my zip code. Yeah, that'll put us squarely in New York City. So let's see. The dealer's trying to sell this with a massive, I can't believe I'm saying this, nearly $40,000 discount. Okay. And we're still saying maybe that's not enough. All right. So let's see, Dad. We're going to pretend like we own this vehicle and we're going to sell it. What do you think? Do you think we're going to get offers around the $40,000 discount? Nearly $40,000 discount puts it at $72,000. Do you think we're going to get any offers around $72,000?
I think you'll get an offer in the 50s.
Offer in the 50s. All right. Yeah. Stand by. We'll say the tires are nice and new. No issues. Not buying another vehicle. Drum roll, please. Do 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 do.
You might not get any offers, but that's besides the point.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Brand new 2022. I don't know if folks will. Wow, $60,200, Dad. The one offer from the Car Gurus dealer network. So and only $12,000 difference. Only $12,000 difference from the dealer selling price to the, if you own this car right now, what you would get.
Yeah, I mean, if I was still in the business and I was appraising this vehicle and somebody brought it in, I'd want to be at half of what MSRP was. So if MSRP is 110, I'd figure it's 2 years old. You couldn't sell it new. At what point will somebody think it's a good enough value to spend the money? I'd want to own it for 50% of what MSRP was. That put me at 55 grand. So I wasn't that far off.
That's wild. That's wild. I mean, let's just sit on this for one more second. Then we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about Ford and some of the chaos that's going on over there that just started this morning. So we'll touch on that in just a moment. Let's just dig in a little bit longer here. That vehicle, Dad, $110,000 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. There's 240 2022 sitting on dealer lots right now.
Yes.
Those dealers, what's the invoice price on that got to be? Maybe 95 grand, 90, 98, 100,000, something like that.
If there was 10% margin in it, so it'd be around what,
$100,000.
Yes, okay.
$100,000. You're putting that on floor plan. You can't. I mean, can you floor plan something for 2 years? Like eventually, I feel like
I would hope not, but
I would hope not too. Yeah. So it's like I'm sitting here and I'm trying to rationalize as a customer. Does buying this at $72,000 make a lot of sense? No, it doesn't, because we just proved. Yeah.
And here's the worst part. Even if they, at a certain point, Chrysler Credit said, hey, we won't floor this any longer. You've got to pay for it. Okay. So let's say a year ago, they had to pay for it. Let's say a year ago, they had to stroke a check for $100,000 to Chrysler Credit. And the return on that has been, well, zero. And they're about, if they can sell it for what they've got it advertised for, they're about to lose $28,000 on that $100,000 investment. And it just, it shouldn't have taken anybody 2 years to realize that there's a limited market for these vehicles.
2 years ago, Dad, these were selling with market adjustments in some markets. I mean, let's not forget, I posted that on the Twitter thread. 2 years ago, there were $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 market adjustments on these Jeep Grand Wagoneers. So I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, in some markets, you could make 20 grand over MSRP on this $110,000 Jeep.
Apparently not in the New York market.
This is very true, obviously, but still. Okay, so here's one thing, a question for the room, question for you, Dad. We know the owners at Island. We're friendly with them. We've hosted events there. We help facilitate car deals there frequently. I'm contemplating reaching out to them and saying, hey, can you come on the show and can we talk about this specific vehicle? Can you help us understand the economics of this car? Like, what is this doing for you? And I'd be interested in having that conversation. What do you think, Dad? What do you guys think in the chat?
Well, it reminds me, that vehicle reminds me of the SLX when Acura had the SLX, and that was just a rebadged Isuzu Trooper, and it was literally, it was a boat anchor. And I've told this story before. We had gotten one in, and one of our good customers that occasionally showed that he had more money than brains made an offer for the SLX. And we had just gotten it, and he made an offer for the SLX, and it was like a $5,000 or $5,500 loser. Okay. And we had the car for, like, I don't know, 2 weeks. And the GM and the area vice president looked at that offer and said, better to take the loss now than to wait and take the loss. Just sell it. We've proven over the course of time that there was no market for SLXs. Anytime we had one, they sat. They were just guaranteed to be there for like longer than some of my sales staff. And so
longer than the same.
So you have to look at certain vehicles, and maybe when these first came out, you could get $20,000 over, but it had to. The truth had to come out fairly quickly, especially in the New York market, where you would think there's the money to be able to buy it there. And if there was no market for it, nobody was willing. Why does it take 2 years to say, let's do something about it? And I don't know that that's a conversation that the owners would want to have with us publicly.
Yeah, I get you. I get what you're saying. I still
Yeah,
think it'd be
because
interesting to intimately understand the economics of this because a lot of people look at this and say, "Well, the dealer's still being greedy." You know, I mean, on Twitter, Dad, this went a little viral on Twitter, and
yeah,
everyone's saying, "Well, it's still $20,000-$30,000 overpriced." And I'm sitting there, and all I can think to myself is, "No customer is going to buy this." And the dealer's stuck with it. And who do you really point the finger to? You point it to Jeep. And that leads me, Dad, to one of the other topics I wanted to talk about today, which is we are going to continue to track car price inflation here in 2024. New year, same us. We're going to be looking at inflation as it changes for both, the economy and also for every brand. And you can see that Stellantis was the quote unquote big winner. Stellantis is the parent company of Jeep. They increased their MSRPs 50%. 50.5% in the past 5 years. And we'll update this data in January here. I mean, Dad, if I'm the dealer, if I'm the customer, I'm looking at Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram products, and I'm thinking to myself, WTF? Why? Why'd you stick us with this? Hyundai, Kia, obviously 50% price increase as well. However, they started from a lower floor. But that's
yes.
where I'm looking, Dad, is like, this is pointing your finger back to the manufacturer and saying, what are you doing, guys? Like,
If
this
if
just doesn't work.
if I'm the dealer, I'm thinking to myself, how do I unload the franchise? If I'm the
Yeah.
dealer, and the problem is, it would be very very difficult right now to unload it. Um, Everybody in the industry can see market day supply, understands the issues that CDJR dealerships are having at the moment. So the valuation of a dealership, if it was actually up for sale, is going to be much lower than what the seller would anticipate it to be. You're sitting there. These guys are sitting there with a 2 year old Jeep Grand Wagoneer Series 3 that they can't sell, that they, for 2 years have been unable to sell. They still might not, maybe they'll sell it for 60 or 65. Maybe somebody will come in and say, okay, I'll give you 65. Will you take it? And maybe at that point they'll just say, yeah, let's cut our losses and move on. But it's the whole idea of what are we doing with the brand? How are we supposed to make the the franchise profitable moving forward when the desirability of our products has dropped dramatically.
And that's going to take us over to Ford here in just a moment. Before we do, I want to remind everyone back at CarEdge.com, just like the automakers and the car dealers, our end of year promotion ends in about 2 days, 2.5 days. I think for a lot of dealerships and a lot of automakers, it ends tomorrow, folks. So if you're doing your end year car buying, you want to, like for Mazdas, for example, as a friendly reminder, if you want to buy your Mazda through CarEdge, you absolutely can. Never go to the dealership and save below invoice. Well, the 0% financing at Mazda ends tomorrow, gang. So our promotion ends in 2 days and a half, excuse me. All the automaker promotions will be close of business tomorrow. I don't think there are any exceptions to that rule. I'm pretty sure everyone is end of the month is tomorrow.
I think for most if not all of the incentives,
Yeah.
they want to get they use January 2nd because some dealerships are actually closed today. The last group that I worked for, unfortunately, we were open on New Year's Day, but
You were open on New Year's Day? I thought New Year's Day was a holiday.
it is just not in the car business. Just not when you worked for some of the people that I worked for. I mean, some groups where I worked, yes, it was when I worked at the Penske organization in Scottsdale, we were closed on New Year's Day. When I came east, and the last dealer group that I worked for, we were not. We were open on New Year's Day. We worked
Interesting.
holiday hours, which I think were uh, 10 to 4 or 10 to 6, whatever it was, just enough to ruin the whole damn day.
Just
Uh,
enough to ruin the whole day.
yeah.
Gotta love it. All right, one other story before we jump over to Ford, which is, and I posted this over on Twitter as well, Dad, it's not just the Jeeps and the Fords. This was from one of our dealer partners up in the state of New Hampshire. You've talked about
Yeah.
this sports cars, winter months, not a good mix.
Yeah.
This is a text I got from the owner. I got 4 Corvettes I have to move winter here in New Hampshire. You think you could run some sort of special of $4,000 off of sticker? Haven't seen discounts on Corvettes in 4 or 5 years. Dad, so it's not just the Jeeps and the Fords. The market overall is evolving as we head into 2024. Corvettes Corvettes are still seeing markups in many markets.
Yes.
I mean, $4,000 under sticker. That's insanity. And if you are interested, obviously just reach out to me. I can connect you and we can help facilitate. But still, that is getting that text message. I was shocked, absolutely shocked.
Well, but that indicates to me a dealer that understands his market. Okay, we're in the beginning of winter in New Hampshire, talking about a sports car, four of them that are expensive, that floor plan costs are expensive, and the likelihood of finding a local buyer, let alone finding four local buyers for those, is pretty remote. And the only way you can encourage somebody to buy them at the wrong time of year is that you have to make the price so enticing that the
Yeah.
person will say, well, I know I can't drive it for 3 months, but it's such a good value. I need to buy it now. Because that's the reality. If you can buy it and you live in New Hampshire, well, that's not coming out of the garage probably until March or April sometime. Um, so yeah, that's what you have to do. It's called seasonality.
It kind of speaks to some of the opportunities. So like, we built up a lot of hype and with good reason around year-end car deals. Our community, caredge.com/community, the forum is flooded with success stories. I mean,
Yes.
hundreds of success stories in the month of December, Dad. Couldn't be more proud. There are deals to be had in January. There are deals to be had in February. There's deals to be had year round. It's a matter of regionality and seasonality that
Yes.
factor into that. This is a perfect example. You're in California, you're looking for that new Corvette. It might make sense to ship it out and cost 1,500, 2,000. I mean, it might make a ton of
Yeah.
sense financially to do something like that if the dealer is willing.
I mean, how many Mazda Miata convertibles you think they're selling in New Hampshire or Vermont or Maine this time of year? Okay. Um, who's buying those right now? And if you have some and you're a dealer and you don't want to have to sit on it for another 90 days or so, you price it low enough that it'll encourage somebody to come in and say, yeah, I'll park it in my garage next to my vet until April.
Yeah, exactly. And this brings up an interesting question from JMac, which is why aren't these dealers passing on allocations? And they are. They
They
are.
are.
This is the new kind of like revelation at the end of 2023 was dealers no longer accepting allocations. This builds even more consternation between the dealer and the factory. But there's no point in like what we're going to turn our attention to in a second with Ford is the fact that the Mach-E lost federal tax credits today
Yes.
for electric vehicles, along to as well as many other vehicles. But the Mach-E is a bit of an albatross because there's so many of them sitting around. Ford dealers nationwide are rejecting allocations of Mach-E's as well as other vehicles because
Yeah.
there's no point. There's absolutely no point. So dealers are, denying allocation. And I know you've been in that position before, Dad, where you didn't want to take allocation.
And I didn't. And I caught a lot of grief from my factory rep and maybe the factory zone manager. Well, what are you doing? You've got to help us out. And it was like, well, as I used to always say to him, well, at the end of the year, when we're bleeding red, when we show a loss for the year, are you going to stroke us a check to make us whole? And the answer always was, well, no. Well then I have to turn down allocation. From a business perspective, it doesn't make sense for the dealership to bear the additional responsibility of vehicles that we don't need. From your perspective as the manufacturer, you got them, and the only way you can get rid of them is to ship them to your dealers. So of
It's
course you
so
want to try and
interesting.
make
Yeah.
me feel bad, but you're the ones that built too many, not me.
It's like this reluctantly symbiotic relationship. It's almost parasitic in some ways, you know what I mean? It's like the OEM is like this parasite. It's just like, take it, take it, take it, take it. And then the dealers obviously get all the flack for many reasons, right? We just came
Oh,
out of multiple years
absolutely.
of dealer markups and things like that. Yeah, this year, I think 24 is going to be a year of reckoning for some of these domestic brands. And again, Mach-E no longer gets a federal tax credit. Who's buying them? They weren't buying them when there was a tax credit. Will they be buying them now that there isn't? Probably not. Especially as they're
Um,
sitting around longer and longer, I don't see it.
what is Ford going to do to compensate for the loss of those tax credits? How are they
You've got to
going
imagine
to?
financing incentives, Dad. You've got to imagine there will be 0% or 0.9%. There has to be. I would be shocked if
There
there
has
aren't.
to be something, but what are they going to do for their dealers to create an interest in that vehicle again? And and much like that Jeep Grand Wagoneer Series 3, how much are you going to have to lower the prices of them for someone to say, well, this really isn't the EV that I wanted when I was thinking about an EV, but the price is too good for me to pass on it. So what's that number?
Yeah.
And how do they do that, since we know that the margin built into the car from invoice to MSRP is about $10. So now that's not
You
saying
can't
that,
you
that
can't make
Ford
that
doesn't.
one up in volume.
Yeah, well, that's how you do make it up. You pick it
I
up in
know, I know.
volume,
I'm
because that's
kidding.
how Ford pays their dealers. Um, Based on how many they can sell. But if they can't sell any, then
Yeah.
that becomes a real issue. And how is Ford going to help the dealers overcome this? I don't know. The, it
Let's
won't be
jump
by
here to the
building
chat.
quality vehicles.
We'll see who wins the recall award like Ford did last year. Let's come here to the chat pops we've got from Taker. Thank you for the contribution.
Thank you,
Do you
Taker.
guys think the new EV credits are going to be a mess? I've heard Tesla won't be giving the credit at point of sale. I am not super informed about the EV tax credit, so I don't know. I think it was like 7,000 franchise dealerships signed up for the point of sale tax credits. I
Yes.
think it should go fairly smoothly at those 7,000 dealerships. My fingers are crossed. I would hope so.
Yeah, well, when you consider there's 18,000 new car franchise dealers, 7,000 doesn't sound like enough, but
Yeah.
maybe out of those 18,000, they don't all sell EVs. But I would think that being able to get that tax credit up front should make it easier for people who want to buy an EV, for those EVs that qualify for it. Not every EV is going to qualify,
Yeah.
and we'll see. We'll see if the government actually has the ability to deliver the money to the dealers in as quick a manner as they have suggested they have. Dealerships are very cash flow intensive, and if the government has said, hey, we'll get you paid like within 3 days. Well, if that 3 days turns into 30, that's a real issue for a dealership waiting for that money to come in, because that money builds up rather quickly. So
Yeah.
we'll see. You would think, on the surface, you would think that it should help spur sales. We will find out.
From Miss Jill here. Pops, Miss Jill, good to see you. Thank you for the
Thank you, Jill.
contribution. Thank you, Rainzak, for all of your knowledge. I was able to negotiate a 2024 Honda Civic Touring for $25,000 out the door last week in Las Vegas. That is incredible. A new
Yes.
car, a Honda, in a tough market. Las Vegas is a difficult market to purchase a vehicle in. And at that price point, wow, that is inspirational, man. Sub
Es-
30, we're at 25,000. That's awesome,
Especially in Vegas, because
especially in
Vegas is
Vegas.
a very, very tough car market,
Yeah, it's a
filled with
super tough.
a lot of dealers who just figure everybody can pay whatever they are asking, and in
Yeah,
many cases
that's
they can't. Yeah,
That's pretty incredible. We've
yeah.
got here from Lou reminding me to focus on the out the door price. How much do they want on the Corvettes? I think the dealer dock fee up there in New Hampshire is like $400, and then you've got title and registration and your taxes. So $4,000 off of MSRP, then a dealer dock fee, title, tax, registration. So yeah, I appreciate the reminder, Lou. Always
Yeah.
negotiate the out the door price, folks. In this case, there you go. You've got an idea of what the OTD on those Corvettes would be. Mark's got a great question here, Dad. Why
Yes.
doesn't Ford offer the same incentives in Arizona as they do in Michigan? I've been trying to buy in Arizona, and dealers can't offer big enough discounts because of this. I think this partly has to do with those regional ad groups, the co-ops. Is that part of it?
Well, that's part of it, and they break they break the country down into zones, and so that incentives can be, and often are, regionalized, and in some cases, they can even be based on zip codes. We used to have incentives in Arizona that if you were a California resident, you would not qualify for that incentive. You had to be, like Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah,
Oh
Colorado,
no, we were doing
Texas.
so well. Where'd he go?
Who?
Oh, you're back in Arizona. Sorry, we lost you for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, oftentimes these incentives can be regionalized and based on zip code. So that's why. I mean, obviously, the manufacturer figures that people in Arizona are more willing to spend more for a vehicle than they are in Michigan.
It also, I think, has to do with those market supply dynamics, right? So if
Yeah,
we were to look at Ford inventory in Michigan compared to Ford inventory in Arizona, while both are likely significantly higher than they'd like, much higher in Michigan than they are in Arizona, and that can influence those things as well. We've got Dad from Waltzing Turtle. Thank you for the contribution.
thank you.
Buy a new Lexus now or wait for Q1. We're in Q1. So what do you think of this, Dad? Should I be jumping on, tomorrow's the last day of the year at Lexus? What do I do?
I would get some sense as to what the incentives are. I can just tell you the incentive spends are greater for the last month of the year than they are for the first couple months of the new year. Um, and I don't see Lexus inventory building up to any great degree that they're going to feel compelled, even in quarter one, to start offering huge incentives to sell their vehicles. So I would see what's available today, and if they have a vehicle that you're interested in today and the incentives are strong enough, I would go ahead and do something now, rather than hope that there's going to be um, a big incentive push from Lexus in the first quarter of the year, which I don't necessarily suspect.
I'm right there with you. All right, we've got a great question here from Josh, and it's going to parlay into something I want to show everyone, which is what percentage discount should we shoot for on 2023 inventory that has been depreciating on lots? Well, Josh, I got the perfect solution for you. All right, CarEdge data is your answer to this. We don't know off the top of our heads, but we built an algorithm. Our team behind the scenes did as well. So I'm going to come to CarEdge.com. What are you interested in, Dad? Let's do. He said a 2023. So a 2023. What do you want? What do you want?
A
Give me
Buick
something.
Envista.
You really want a 2023 Buick Envista?
I don't
Okay.
know. What do you want?
I don't want an Envista, man. I don't even
Okay, well,
see
what do
the
you
Envista
want?
here. We'll do a Buick Encore. Oh man, my voice kind of cracked as I said
It
that.
did.
All right, we're doing a Buick Encore. Maybe I need to do the Buick Encore GX. There we go, the Buick Encore GX. So here's the deal, folks. You can click on one. We've got a new one right here. This one's actually in Henderson, Nevada. It's got 5,000 miles on it. And there you go. You've got your target discount that'll pop up on every vehicle. You can see 6.5%. This is based on market dynamics. So there's 135 days supply of this vehicle in this area. 3 for sale, 1 is sold in the last 45 days. Use that data, folks. Whether you get it the fair price or not, it's a good barometer for what you should be targeting when you head to your local dealership. So please, please, please use that. And I'm going to jump back to the website, Pops, because I want to remind everyone that all of our tools and resources and everything like that, if you're going to buy a car, click here. If you're going to sell or trade a car, click here. Our extended warranty protection plans, the $200 promo ends on 2.5 days. Mechanical and electronics, all the tools, the services, and everything that we have for free is up here under resources. We're heading into 2024, Dad. We got everything in front of us. We want to help people as much as possible. Big ambitions for the new year, and please go check out caredge.com. And if you've gotten help from us recently, go leave a review, go leave a success story. That's all incredibly valuable for us, as helps other people trust us and know that we're really here to help.
And I want to say that some of your morning fog has burned off behind you, and it's a much prettier picture behind you than it was when we started the show.
So I will go enjoy hopefully a quick run and maybe less fog as I'm doing it. You enjoy a beautiful New Year's Day in Ventnor, New Jersey, Dad. And I'll be back on Wednesday, flying home tomorrow. So no show for me tomorrow, but I'll be back on Wednesday with you, Pops, and I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So we will see everybody back here Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, with more news that you can use in 2024.
Can't wait. See you then, Pops.
Yep. Love you, honey.